Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, the conclave produced a new pope from Chicago.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. So suddenly you like the Cardinals? Is that
maybe
what's happening?
Those Cardinals, but not those. I did check. I literally texted everybody I knew to say he better not be affiliated, tied to, or leaning toward the Cardinals or the Packers, because if he is, I want no part of him. No part of him.
Why would he lean towards the Packers exactly if he's from Chicago?
Because Wisconsin, you know where Chicago is? You're a geography major. You don't know where Chicago is, tucked up right next to the border, southern border of Wisconsin? Where you been?
I'm going to leave this alone for a little while. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Thunder rolls. The Maple Leafs go up 2-0, and Buster Olney joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Knicks once again coming back from 20 points down to the Celtics in the third quarter, and once again beating the Celtics in Boston for a 2-0 lead in that series. The Celtics took 40 threes. They only made 10. They're now 25 for 100 in these two games. They didn't even get off a shot in their final possession. Wilbon, you were there. What surprised you the most from this result?
God, Tony, all of it surprised me. Because you're sitting there and you're waiting for Boston to explode. You're waiting for Boston to look like the champs that they are, defending it anyway. And they don't quite get there. The lead goes to 20, and I'm like, okay, but wait a minute. They just did this last game. It's not going to be like last game. It was identical to last game. A 20-point lead, fairly deep midway into the third quarter, and you're headed toward the fourth quarter, and then even with like 8 minutes left, it's a 16-point lead. And they've gotten there in that way they do, where the Celtics aren't sort of paying attention to the actual game. And I was likening this to sort of a cult. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're not paying attention to the opponent or the circumstance, none of it. And at some point, they can't hit these threes. Their cult mentality backfires on them. And the Knicks are playing with all the grit and determination called for tonight. Because the Knicks are actually playing this game against this opponent. And to the rescue rides Jalen Brunson again. He did not have the huge game he had in game one, but he was clutch again. And defensively, they were all over the place, Tony. All of it was shocking to me, because I texted you when I finally figured out what had happened. And I said, explain this. And of course, you, like the rest of us, none of us, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to say at the top that I still think the Celtics have a good chance to win this series. They had the best road record in the NBA this past season. They were 33-8. They are 2-0 so far at Madison Square Garden. But they need to have a plan B because, Mike, in the fourth quarter now of 2 full games, they have a total of 33 points. 33 points in 2 different fourth quarters total. That's terrible. Now, I assume, and we had this discussion this morning, I assume that the Boston Celtics actually paid Joe Mazzulla to be the head coach. And so at that point, even if you are philosophically in line with taking threes all the time, you have to have a plan B. That's what they pay you to have as a plan B. So you have to gather the players around and say, we're going to go to plan B now. And if the players on the court don't want to do it, you sit them down and you get other players. I'm not saying, Mike, you have to go to plan B the whole game, but I am saying this, that the clinical definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. There's not going to be a different result here. This is an aberration. They shot threes so well for a long time. I got a great stat you'll love. In their last 564 games, this is only the second time that they've gone 2 games in a row shooting 25% or less from three.
Wow.
But Mike,
that is a good stat.
Okay, it's an anomaly, but that doesn't mean it's fiction. It's happening.
Tony,
they have to
I agree with
change.
you completely. But the head coaches, like the players, that's why I call them a cult. They all believe the same thing. And there apparently is nobody who can say, hey, pay attention to this game, not your whacked out philosophy. I love it because it's killing the analytics people. The analytics people are sitting around going, what do you mean you can score from not a layup or a three? Yeah, apparently you can. Out in the West, meanwhile, the Thunder did not fall into an 0-2 hole. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 34 points, added 8 assists, and the Thunder crushed the Nuggets by 43. to even that series at a game each. Meanwhile, SGA's MVP rival, Nikola Jokic, scored only 17, posted the worst plus-minus of his career at minus 36. Tone, in your mind, where does this series stand now?
So the other day I said maybe we would call for a revote on MVP. If we called for a revote after this one, it would go back to the original, obviously. Look, I am not the slightest bit surprised that Oklahoma City won this game big. I am not going to be the slightest bit surprised if Minnesota drums Golden State. In this particular game, I would have bet that Oklahoma City would win this game by 25 points or more, which is an astonishing amount of a spread in the playoffs. I'm telling you, my 30, 40, 50, I wouldn't be surprised because Denver had nothing to play for. Absolutely nothing. Denver knows that to win this series, they have to win the games at home now. That's all. That's really all they have to do. Oklahoma City is a wonderful team, but they put themselves in a bind, and they're the better team. They put themselves in a bind because Denver won game one. Was Denver lucky? Sure. They got a last-second three. Sure, they were lucky, but they won. They won, so what they have to do now is win home games. That's what they have to do.
As a guy who picked OKC all season to win the championship, I would like to disagree with you, but I cannot and I will not. Because you're right about this. I mean, Denver is still right now in control of the series. It didn't matter how many points they won by last night, Oklahoma City, 10 or 43 or 53. It didn't matter. And they beat them down. They beat them down to the point where you're wondering out loud, whoever you're talking to during the game, when are they going to put their subs in, the Nuggets? Because they got no shot, and they may as well start resting people, and that would be in the early third quarter when you could have done that. So I'm with you, Tony, and I wonder how getting beat this badly and embarrassingly will affect the Nuggets, just like getting beat, even though it was only on a last-second shot. That stung OKC necessarily and productively. Yeah. But now it swings the other way, and we see these wild swings. You and I can go back to wild swings between even the Celtics and Lakers in championship series where teams would just drum each other, and it goes back and forth in the playoffs like that. So I think Denver's still in control of the series, even if only narrowly.
Yeah. I mean, look, the home teams in this round of the playoffs are currently 1 and 6.
1 and 5,
the higher seeds are 1 and 6. So maybe Denver can't win at home. But all I'm saying to you, and I know you agree, they have the opportunity to win this series at home. They have the math. They have the math to do it if they want to. We move now, as always lately, to hockey for our third story. Last night, Toronto beat Florida with backup goalie Joseph Woll substituting for Anthony Stolarz. The Leafs now lead the series 2-0, and Dallas's Mikko Rantanen had his second consecutive playoff hat trick and first against Winnipeg to lead the Stars to a 3-2 opening game win. Wilbon, which was more impressive?
Tony, both of these are impressive. I mean, to have consecutive hat tricks, I mean, it's just, not done. It's historic. But Tony, I'm gonna stick with Toronto, and I've become fascinated, as you know, with Toronto and Edmonton in the Stanley Cup playoffs these last few seasons since the Blackhawks haven't been in it. I've become obsessed with them. And Toronto is playing against several things. And this is why I'm going to pick them as having the most impressive evening. They're playing against their long history now of not being able to win, which is, I mean, they're getting Red Sox and Cubs-like. It's been a long time, and they're dealing with that, and if people don't think that's an important thing in and around Toronto, the discussion of it, they'd be wrong. Then they're playing with their own recent inability, even when being the better seed, to get through playoff opponents that they should get through, right? And then they're playing against the defending champs. So you're fighting all three of those things. This is a huge mountain. And last night, while I was at basketball, I'm trying to peek in to see what they're doing against the Panthers. And it's like, whoa, Toronto's going to win this to go up 2-0. I know they're home games, but they lost a couple of home games against the Panthers a couple of years ago in the playoffs. So I'm going with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, in terms of the playoffs, Toronto taking a 2-0 lead is a bigger deal than a couple of hat tricks because historically, Florida, when they go down 0-2, they lose that series. That's happened 5 times now. So that would mean they could not defend the Stanley Cup after this round. And so in terms of the playoffs itself, that is a big deal and a big picture. But this kid goes out and gets 2 playoff hat tricks in a row. He scores 3 goals in the third period against Colorado in a Game 7, knocks them out. He comes back, he scores 3 goals in the second period last night. It's a natural hat trick, right? It's all
yes.
the goals that the team has had. And he does it in 7 minutes and 55 seconds. And you'd think someone on Winnipeg would notice a pattern emerging and say, we got to get this guy off his game, right? In the last 12 Dallas playoff goals, this kid has either scored or assisted on him. You think that's a heater? And you know who feels stupid now? The 2 teams that traded him away this year. Colorado, who he booted from the playoffs, and Carolina, and he may have a chance to get to Carolina in the Stanley Cup final. That may work out. Let's take a break. Coming up, did manager Derek Shelton deserve to get fired by the Pirates today? We're going to ask Buster Olney.
We're also going to ask him how he makes sense of the numbers that Aaron Judge is putting up right now. Tony, if the Stanley Cup final is Edmonton-Toronto, I want to go. I want to go to each of those cities for the Stanley Cup final.
Well, you have my permission to go. It's okay.
You're not coming with me?
No,
huh?
No, I'm going to let you go. You'll call me. Baseball with our great friend, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball reporter and senior writer, Mr. Buster Olney, who, by the way, Wilbon, can milk a cow, can make an actual bagel, and just taught me how to plant potatoes. I'm very excited. Let's start with news from today, Buster. The Pirates are 12-26. They fired manager Derek Shelton, saying they want to, quote, fix this now, unquote. Has managing been the central issue with the Pirates?
Is this a trick question, Tony? What are you kidding? It's about ownership spending money, which they just haven't done. Look, since the start of 2019, the Pittsburgh Pirates have spent about $1.2 billion less than the Dodgers. And that's an absurd comparison because the Dodgers are in L.A. Since 2019, the Pirates have spent $200 million less than the Milwaukee Brewers. Bob Nutting, the owner, came out today and said, look, I want to see a sense of urgency. Bob, how about you? Stop hoarding your revenue-sharing money and spend some money on good players.
Sounds like a reasonable solution to us, Buster. I'm going to ask you about a guy who, talk about money well spent. Aaron Judge is only 1 for his last 10, but he's still hitting about 400. He's still leading the majors in about every important offensive category. How do we make of what we're seeing out of Aaron Judge, given what we've already seen in recent years?
Michael, it's really simple. He's the best right-handed hitter ever. There is a great statistic, adjusted OPS plus, which measures players and their production against their peers. Henry Aaron, of course, a great right-handed hitter. His career high adjusted OPS plus was 194. Willie Mays, 185. Jimmy Fox, 207. Mike Trout, 198. As we're speaking, Aaron Judge's adjusted OPS plus is 249 after hitting 223 last year. And yes, questions about how he's going to do in the postseason. We'll follow him around till he thrives in October. But right now, he's the best hitter in baseball, and he'd be the unanimous selection again for American League MVP.
Wow. Okay, well, I got to do one follow-up here because I got one name in my head you didn't mention. I'm going to ask you about a comparison off the cuff. Albert Pujols.
Again, in terms of this particular stat, it's not close. I don't have it in front of me, but Albert's, the fact that what we're seeing with Judge is that he's hitting for all that power and for all that average, it's insane. In spring training, ESPN ranked the top 100 players in baseball. We had Aaron Judge 4th. And when I took it around to players, I asked them what they thought of it. From Andrew McCutchen to Tommy Pham, others saying, are you guys crazy? Do you understand what you're watching in Aaron Judge? He's that good.
That is great. That's incredible. Well, we'll switch leagues and move away from Aaron Judge's league to the National League, which appears to have the upper hand on the American League these days. What's your take on what is apparently, and we realize it's still early, a disparity, a real disparity?
It's the biggest disparity I've ever seen. It really comes down to spending, which was, kicked off by the Dodgers about a decade ago. As the Dodgers grew their payroll, other teams, Padres, Mets, Phillies, spent to keep up. Our friend Paul Hembekides dug this out, that since the start of the 2018 season, National League spending has increased by 36%. American League spending, 8%. This is why you could make a case that the top 6 or 7 teams in baseball are all in the National League.
All right, Buster, we'll get you out of here on this. It does pertain to the American League, though, not the National League. The Red Sox lost their first baseman, Tristan Casas, for the rest of the season. They had really high hopes for him. What do they do now?
Yeah, and they actually have a whole bunch of options because they have this great wave of prospects coming up from the minor leagues. But I think maybe what they would prefer would be that Rafael Devers would knock on the door of manager Alex Cora and say, hey, I'll play first base. Now, this is complicated because at the beginning of spring training, the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman and asked Devers to move to DH. He initially said he wouldn't do it, and then he agreed to it to become a DH. That would be the perfect fit, and he really should do it as the highest paid guy, as a leader on this team. They're in it to win it this year, and the best way to win it would be with Devers at first base.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Talk
that
about
would be
utility.
That would
Utility
be a
superstar.
Hollywood ending if he did well there. It really would be. Thank you, Buster. Thank you,
Buster. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, will the Capitals get back on track against the Hurricanes tonight?
And how will the Warriors fare tonight without Stephen Curry?
Did
Tony,
we
I
hear
can
Buster
eat
say? Good, I'll grow them. You can eat them. But did we hear Buster say that Aaron Judge is the best right-handed hitter ever?
Right-handed hitter ever.
Did he use the word
That's
ever?
why I just threw Pujols. I did
Ever?
not expect ever. That's a mouthful.
Happy time, people. Happy 68th birthday, Bill Cowher. It's been 18 years since Cowher left the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he won a Super Bowl in 2006 with Ben Roethlisberger as a second-year quarterback. Cowher was replaced by Mike Tomlin, who's still there. He's the longest tenured coach at the same team in the NFL now. Tomlin won a Super Bowl in 2009 with a slightly more experienced Ben Roethlisberger. Cowher went directly to the CBS pregame show and never left. Wilbon, which are the longer odds here? That Hall of Fame coach Bill Cowher never returned to coaching, or that Mike Tomlin is still in the same spot? I thought Cowher would be back, didn't you?
No, I knew he wasn't. Tony, I ran into Cowher downtown Washington, D.C. at the Mayflower Hotel across the street for a banquet or something. Cowher had heard you say that you always thought he was coming back. And Coach Cowher said to me that evening, tell Tony, I'm not coming back. I love my life. And we talked about just life. He and I are about the same age. And we talked about life outside of this thing you loved all your life. And I was convinced, I've always told you, Cowher is not coming back. He loves his life. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I didn't know about it. Happy anniversary, Willis Reed. This is posthumous. But on this day, 55 years ago, the captain, number 19, came out onto the Madison Square Garden floor with a severely bruised thigh and hit his first 2 shots against Wilt Chamberlain and the Los Angeles Lakers. The adrenaline rush from that, for every person in the stands and every Knicks player on the court, was enough to propel the Knicks to their first of only 2 NBA championships. It's the greatest moment in Knicks history. So let's hold off declaring Jalen Brunson the greatest Knick of all time, okay? I was at this game. My Uncle Gene gave me a seat. I think I was in section 117. I wasn't a sports writer yet. It's the best event I ever attended strictly as a fan.
You know, Tony, it's one of my earliest memories of the NBA Finals, watching with my dad and my brother. And let me just tell you this. You know, I'm in New York now. I came back from Boston here this morning. And the feeling around the Knicks, the buzz around the Knicks, you've forgotten because you don't come to these things anymore. The Garden will be afire on Saturday afternoon for Game 3 of that series with the Celtics. And it makes me think about the great times in the Garden. I make fun of it. I make fun of I-95 and all you Knicks people. There's just no better place to be than Madison Square Garden when you have one of these huge events.
A melancholy trails to Chet Lemon. The longtime outfielder has passed away at the age of 70 after battling a series of post-baseball health issues. Lemon broke into baseball with the White Sox in 1975 at the age of 20 and was a key member of a team Wilbon remembers fondly, the 1977 Southside Hitmen. Over a 15-year career with the White Sox and Tigers, Lemon was a 3-time All-Star, hit 300 3 times, played superb defense, and won a World Series in 1984 when the Tigers topped the Padres.
Chet Lemon was in that lineup with Richie Zisk and Oscar Gamble and Eric Soderholm, and it was so entertaining to watch. And it's just so sad to hear he's gone at 70.
Let's go quick to the big finish. Orioles pitcher Charlie Morton gave up 3 runs in 4 innings. He's now 0-7 on the season. Your thoughts?
9.38 ERA across 6 starts. They gave him $15 million this offseason at 41 years old. Giancarlo Stanton says he could return to the Yanks lineup by the end of the month. Is that significant?
Yeah, he hit great last year. Tennis elbow, so weird. The Mavs fired key members of their training staff. What does that say to you?
Oh, it says to everybody. It's all Luka related. You can sort through it if you want. I'm not going to waste my time. It's all Luka related. NHL Game 2s tonight. Canes, Caps, Oilers, Knights. Pick your winners.
Capitals. Last one, yeah. Warriors and Wolves, Game 2 tonight. Who you got?
I give the Warriors a puncher's chance, but the Wolves have to come back and win this.
Warriors are not going to win that game. We are out of time. We'll try to do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the Apple Podcast. Tony, if the Pope is from Chicago, what does this mean for the Cubs, the Bears, the Bulls, and even the White Sox? What does this mean? Hallelujah.
You think he's a Cubs fan?